What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over the X-Men, but now we're going to jump back over to some more X Factor, and we're going to cover X Factor issue number 93. Now, issue number 93 is technically an epilogue for the X Factor chapter of Fatal Attractions, and it also came out before most of the chapters when it comes to Fatal Attractions. Let me explain. You see, in my last video, I had talked about the idea that when it came to Fatal Attractions, the X Factor chapter alone kind of felt like it was a prelude, a prologue leading into the actual Fatal Attractions event, because even though it was technically labeled as a crossover with all the X titles, for X Factor, their chapter kind of felt like it was on their own, doing its own kind of story for X Factor, but also kind of building up the idea of some changes being done in X Factor very soon, especially for the character better known as Val Cooper. And you see what I mean as we go through today's video. But yes, this right here is really more of an epilogue for the X Factor chapter of Fatal Attractions. Now, in the opening pages of this book, we actually pick up with both Havoc and also Wolfbane paying a visit over to the school of Charles Xavier. Now, when it comes to X Factor issue number 93, it does take place after Uncanny X-Men issue number 303, the whole idea of the death of Illyana. Because when you have our two heroes arrive at the school, they remember that they were just told that she had died. Now, with that being said, they came here because they believed just possibly that Charles Xavier might be able to help out Wolfbane. And I'll explain more about that here in a moment. But while you have our two characters walk into the actual building, they are confronted by different members of the X-Men. Bobby Drake, Iceman, Archangel, and also Colossus. Now, for Wolfbane and also Havoc, they want to know how Colossus is doing because this man lost his sister, like she is gone. And matter of fact, if you have seen my other X-Men videos, you would know the man has gone through a lot in a very short period of time. He lost his brother to suicide. His parents were killed off by the Russian government. And now his sister has died thanks to the legacy virus. This man is now on his own. But right now, he's kind of showing off the idea that he's okay. And right now, he does not be bothered at all about the death of his sister. Now, when it comes to the rest of X Factor, they have stayed behind at the base. And so we actually pick up with Quicksilver and Polaris. Now, for Quicksilver, he has also gone through a lot in a very short period of time. The whole idea of him trying to fix his marriage, and unfortunately, it didn't work out for him. We're also being told that for Quicksilver, he's being told that he has to wear a new outfit because his outfit does not really match the rest of X Factor. And so it's kind of like, hey, listen, I'm going to need you to go ahead and change to an outfit that kind of matches with the rest of the team. And really, same for Polaris as well. Kind of give them new outfits to follow along with the rest of X Factor. But now we have to jump over to Jamie Madrox. Now, this is something we have not really talked about because in our last video, it kind of seemed pointless to me, but I guess I'm wrong. You see, when it came to our last video, when it came to X Factor, they had fought against the Acolytes. And there was a moment where for Jamie, he had to kill off one of the members of the Acolytes to just survive. And for him, that was kind of like his first kill. And so currently, he's still trying to get over the fact that he killed somebody. And so right now, he is technically just locked up in his room, not wanting to talk to anybody at all about what he is going through. Now, for Strong Guy, I actually feel a tad bit sad for him here because for Strong Guy, he's just right now trying to take a shower, but also trying to bring some more self-love into his life. And so while trying to take a shower, well, out of nowhere, you have a random woman appear. Now, at first, he's not really able to tell us, or really he can't see who it is. And honestly, the way the book is drawn, we're not even able to tell who it is. But apparently this person is a very powerful teleporter because she appears in the shower naked, grabs Strong Guy, and teleport away somewhere else. Now, in our last video, we had talked about the idea of Havoc being a leader. And what I mean by that statement is that in our last video, we had talked that when it came to Chris Claremont, he didn't do a good job when it came to the character development of Havoc. And really, it was Peter David who said, hey, you know what? Why not try to do something new with Havoc? Why not try to make him a leader? And so you have Havoc go downstairs and walk up to his brother, Scott Summers. Now, for Scott, Cyclops has been a leader since the very first issue of X-Men comics. And so for Scott, being a leader is like the only thing he knows how to do when it comes to being on the X-Men team. But for Havoc, he still knew the idea of trying to be a leader. And so for Cyclops, he can tell that there's something going on with his brother. And honestly, there is. The whole idea of Wolfbane being programmed to love him, the whole idea of the revival of Project Wide Awake, and the whole idea of basically everything else X-Factor has gone through in a very short period of time. Now, it's also having wondering, are they going to be able to achieve the goal of Charles Xavier? The whole idea of humans and mutants being able to live together in harmony. But for Cyclops, it's more of like, listen, even though that dream may seem like we cannot actually achieve it, we still gotta try, because if we don't, then who will? Now let's jump over to Wolfbane, because this begins the process of Wolfbane actually leaving the team. You see, for Wolfbane, back in the extension agenda, her and Havoc were actually kidnapped by Genosha. Now remember, when it came to Genosha in the early days of Marvel Comics, it was trying to paint this picture of a perfect nation. If you live there, you'll have no issues at all. It's the perfect place to live. If you are a human, if you were a mutant, in reality, you were a slave to help build up that country. And so when it came to Wolfbane and also Havoc, they were kidnapped and they were turned into slaves for Genosha. Now for Wolfbane, she was actually programmed to fall in love with Havoc. And so for a while there, she thought like, okay, you know what? She's gaining feelings for Havoc. But in reality, they had messed with her mind to make her fall in love with Havoc. And so that's why she's here with Charles Xavier, hoping that Charles can find a way to actually turn her back to normal. But here comes the big problem though. You see, for Wolfbane, when she was turned into a slave, she kind of got forced into her wolf form and stuck in that wolf form. Let me explain. Because if she goes back into her human form, she goes back into slave mode. And so to kind of stay out of that slave mode, she got to stay in her wolf form. But the problem is, the longer she stays in that wolf form, it altered her brain more and more into a beast type brain. And so for Charles Xavier, what he's telling her is that he can't really reprogram her mind to no longer be in love with Havoc. He tells her like, the only way to actually help you is to turn you back into your human form. But if we do that, then most likely you'll go back into your slave mode mindset. And so technically you're stuck in that wolf form, but also I cannot actually go through the process of hoping to save your life. So technically, you're stuck with being in wolf form, but also stuck being in love with Havoc. Now, I want to jump back over to Strong Guy. And the reason why, because we learned that Strong Guy was taken away by Lila. Lila is a very powerful mutant, a very powerful teleporter, where she is actually able to teleport across the universe. Now, when it comes to Lila, she has been on tour across the entire universe. Now, in the early days of X-Men comics, when it came to Strong Guy, unfortunately, he was a nobody. He was just her bodyguard. And that was really it. But then over time, when it came to X-Men comics, we saw the evolution of Strong Guy no longer just being that bodyguard and actually becoming a member of X-Factor. And so for Strong Guy, he's telling her like, first off, you teleport me across the universe naked in front of a crowd of aliens, but also you have to understand, I'm no longer your bodyguard. I'm no longer your guy on your side. I'm now an actual member of a team of heroes. I have full on responsibilities I have to focus on. And so for Lila, she kind of does tease on the whole idea of being more responsible, but at the same time, she understands where he is coming from. The whole idea that now he has X Factor and he has to focus on that. Now, getting back over to Havoc, you have Havoc just waiting for Charles Xavier and also Wolfbane. Unfortunately, he's waiting for so long that for Havoc, he does get a tad bit bored, but also a tad bit impatient. Either way, you do have Havoc try to access the files of Charles Xavier. And when he does that, he finds a very important file, something labeled the Mutant Underground. Now, we're not really told what that exactly means, but apparently it's something very important. And so for Charles Xavier, when he does come into the room and he sees Havoc on his computer, you have Havoc ask him, hey, what is the Mutant Underground? And for Charles, it's more of like, listen, I will tell you when you need to know. For right now, I feel like you don't need to know at all. Now, for Havoc, because he knows Charles so well, he'll, somewhat let it slide for the moment. But for Havoc, he still wants to know more about this underground. But then out of nowhere, you have Wolfbane walk into the room. When she walks into the room, it's really more of her telling Havoc that she is officially leaving the team. And the reason why, because she hates the idea of being around him, having all those feelings inside of her, but not really be her feelings. Like, she understands that she does not really love him. It's her mind being programmed to actually love Havoc. And so it's her saying, I have to leave. I have to go over to Muir Island to hopefully find a way to fix my brain. And so it's kind of her being pushed out of the book, it seems like. But then we jump back over to the rest of X Factor. And really, those 2 pages are really more just Polaris, Havoc, and also Strong Guy kind of showing off their new outfits. And honestly, kind of like Quicksilver's outfit because it now feels like he's actually an X character now. Like he's actually part of the team. So for me personally, it's kind of cool to see him being on this team now wearing an actual outfit that matches the rest of the team. Now, like I said at the very beginning of this video, where we kind of had to see the end for Val Cooper as well. Now remember, when it comes to X Factor, it's all about the idea that they are a government team that's trying to build relations between the government and also the mutant race. Now, Val Cooper, I said Cooper. That's a huge mistake right there. But Val Cooper, her main goal was to just watch over X Factor, to make sure they fall in line when it comes to working for the government. But in our last video, our heroes found out about Project Wide Awake, the rebirth of Project Wide Awake, the whole idea of the government trying to create new versions of the Sentinels just in case they have to use them against the mutant race. And so because she had been lying to the entire team, the team kind of felt like they could no longer trust her. And so you have the government bringing in somebody else to replace her. And that person is going to be Forge. And bam, just like that, Forge is now in charge of X Factor. And now it's a new beginning for our heroes. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below because you never know. Your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.